It was just a regular Saturday afternoon. I was sitting on my couch watching football, enjoying the kind of quiet that only a single guy in his late 20s can appreciate. Then my phone rang. It was Rachel, my younger sister, asking if I could watch her 4-year-old son Mason for just a few hours. She said she had something urgent to take care of. I said yes without hesitation, because that is what family does. But something in her voice felt different that day. A rush I could not quite explain. I had no idea that those few hours would change my entire life forever. Before I continue with this story, let me know where you are watching from today. And if you have ever had a moment that completely turned your life upside down, hit that like button and subscribe to follow this journey with me. Now let me tell you what happened next. Rachel showed up at my apartment about 30 minutes after her call. The moment I opened the door, I noticed something was off. She was dressed nicer than usual, wearing makeup that looked like she was going somewhere important. Her hair was done up and she carried a large handbag over her shoulder. This was not the Rachel who usually dropped Mason off in sweatpants and a messy ponytail. Mason ran past her into my living room with his little backpack bouncing on his shoulders. He was excited the way 4-year-olds get when they visit someone they love. He immediately grabbed the remote and started looking for cartoons. I looked at Rachel and asked where she was headed. She waved her hand dismissively and said it was just a meeting, something important that came up last minute. She promised she would be back in a few hours, maybe by dinner time. I nodded, not thinking much of it. Rachel had always been a bit scattered, a bit unpredictable, but she was still my sister. She knelt down and kissed Mason on the forehead. "Mommy will be back soon, okay, baby?" Mason barely looked up from the television, too focused on finding his favorite show. Rachel stood up, gave me a quick hug, and walked out the door faster than I expected. I heard her car start and pull away before I even closed the door. It was only later that I realized Mason's backpack had way more clothes in it than a few hours would require. The afternoon passed like any other. Mason and I played with his toy cars, built a tower out of couch cushions, and ordered pizza for dinner. He was a happy kid full of energy and laughter. Around 7 in the evening, he asked when Mommy was coming back. I told him soon, and he seemed satisfied with that answer. By 9 o'clock, I started to feel uneasy. I called Rachel's phone. No answer. I sent her a text message asking where she was. No reply. I told myself she was probably just busy, maybe stuck in traffic or dealing with whatever meeting she had. I put Mason to sleep on my couch, covering him with a blanket, and sat down to wait. At 11 o'clock that night, my phone buzzed. It was a text message from Rachel. I opened it, expecting an apology for being late. Instead, I read words that made my blood run cold. "I am in Vegas. I am not coming back. I cannot do this anymore. Mason is better off with you. I am sorry." I stared at my phone screen for what felt like an eternity. I read those words over and over again, convinced I was misunderstanding something. This had to be a joke. Rachel had a dark sense of humor sometimes, but this was too far even for her. I called her immediately. The phone rang and rang. Just when I thought it would go to voicemail, she answered. "Rachel, what is going on?" "This is not funny." Her voice was calm, almost eerily so. "I meant every word, Daniel. I cannot be a mother. I never wanted this. Please take care of him. You are the only one I trust." Before I could respond, she hung up. I called back, but the phone went straight to voicemail. I tried again and again throughout the night. Nothing. She had turned off her phone completely. I sat in the darkness of my apartment, listening to Mason's soft breathing from the couch. This little boy had no idea that his mother had just abandoned him. He was sleeping peacefully, dreaming whatever dreams 4-year-olds dream, completely unaware that his whole world had just collapsed. I looked around my apartment. 1 bedroom, a small kitchen, a bathroom that barely fit 1 person. I was a software engineer who worked long hours and spent my weekends watching sports and hanging out with friends. I had never changed a diaper in my life. I did not know how to braid hair or pack a school lunch or comfort a child having a nightmare. And now I was responsible for a 4-year-old boy. That night I did not sleep at all. I just sat there in the dark watching Mason sleep, feeling a mix of emotions I could not untangle. Anger at Rachel for doing this, fear about what would happen next, and somewhere deep down a profound sadness for this innocent child who did not deserve any of this. The first week was complete chaos. Mason woke up that Sunday morning asking for Mommy. I froze. I did not know what to say, so I lied. I told him Mommy had to go on a work trip and would be back soon. He seemed to accept this, though he looked disappointed. We had cereal for breakfast because I did not have anything else in my kitchen suitable for a child. On Monday, I called my boss and explained the situation as best I could. He was understanding, thankfully, and gave me the week off to sort things out. I spent that week buying everything a child needs. A small bed that I squeezed into the corner of my bedroom. Clothes in various sizes because I had no idea what fit him. Toys, books, crayons, and more food than I had ever bought in my life. My small apartment transformed overnight. Suddenly there were stuffed animals on my couch and cartoon character cups in my kitchen. My neighbors gave me strange looks when they saw me carrying bags of children's supplies up the stairs. I did not explain anything to them. I did not know how to. By midweek, I knew I had to call our parents. This was not a conversation I wanted to have, but I had no choice. Our parents divorced when I was 15 and Rachel was 12. It was ugly, the kind of divorce that leaves scars on everyone involved. Mom moved to Florida with her new husband shortly after, and Dad relocated to Texas. Neither of them had been particularly present in our adult lives. I called Mom first. When I told her what Rachel had done, she sighed heavily, but did not sound surprised. Rachel has always been troubled, she said. I told your father years ago that she needed help, but nobody listened to me. I am sorry this happened to you, Daniel, but I cannot get involved. I have my own life now. I asked if she could at least help financially or take Mason temporarily while I figured things out. I am 62 years old, she replied. I raised my children. I am not raising another one. She hung up after wishing me good luck, as if I had just told her about a difficult project at work, instead of the complete upheaval of my entire existence. Dad was more sympathetic but equally unhelpful. His health had been declining for years, and he lived alone in a small apartment in Texas. He could barely take care of himself, let alone a 4-year-old. You are a good man, Daniel, he said. I know you will figure this out. I believe in you. Belief was nice, but it did not help me find childcare or explain to my employer why I needed a more flexible schedule. I realized very quickly that I was completely alone in this. As the weeks passed, Mason started asking about Mommy more frequently. The lie about the work trip was wearing thin. One night, about 3 weeks in, he woke up crying in the middle of the night calling for her. I rushed to his little bed and found him sitting up, tears streaming down his face. Where is Mommy? He sobbed. I want Mommy. I held him in my arms and rocked him back and forth, trying to comfort him the way I had seen people do in movies. I did not know any lullabies, so I just hummed whatever melody came to mind. Eventually, he fell back asleep, but I stayed awake the rest of the night, feeling utterly helpless. Mason started having tantrums. He would throw his toys across the room, scream at the top of his lungs, and refuse to eat. I read articles and books about child psychology, trying to understand what he was going through. Abandonment trauma attachment issues. Behavioral regression. The terms were clinical, but the reality was heartbreaking. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Mason looked at me with those big eyes of his and asked the question I had been dreading. Uncle Daniel, does Mommy not love me anymore? My heart shattered into a million pieces. I pulled him onto my lap and held him close. Mommy loves you very much, I said. But Mommy is sick right now and needs time to get better. That is why you are staying with me. But I love you too, buddy. I will always be here for you. I did not know if what I said was true. I did not know if Rachel loved anyone, even herself. But Mason needed to hear something. Anything that would help him make sense of this chaos. He hugged me tight and whispered, I love you too, Uncle Daniel. That was the first moment I felt something shift inside me. This was not just a burden that had been thrust upon me. This was a child who needed me. And maybe, just maybe, I needed him too. But the practical challenges kept mounting. My boss started making comments about my reduced availability. I had to turn down business trips and overtime opportunities. My chances for promotion evaporated. The cost of childcare was astronomical. My savings account, which I had carefully built over years, was draining rapidly. Friends stopped calling because I never had time to hang out anymore. My social life disappeared entirely. The dating life I had maintained went extinct. My entire identity as a young single professional was erased and replaced by something I never anticipated. 3 months passed, and Rachel remained a ghost. No calls, no texts. No sign that she was even alive. I started to accept that she was never coming back. I started to accept that Mason was now my responsibility, perhaps permanently. But I had no idea that the worst was still to come. 4 months after Rachel disappeared, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost did not answer, thinking it was a spam call. Something made me pick up anyway. It was Rachel. Her voice sounded different. Tired. Worn down. She told me she was in Phoenix, Arizona, living with a man named Kevin. She apologized for not calling sooner, said she needed time to figure things out. I waited for her to ask about Mason. She never did. So are you doing okay with him? She asked casually, as if she had left me her houseplant instead of her son. Rachel, do you have any idea what these past 4 months have been like? I could not hide the anger in my voice. Your son cries himself to sleep. He asks for you every single day. He thinks you abandoned him because he did something wrong. Silence on the other end. I cannot do it, Daniel, she finally said. I cannot be a mother. I never wanted to be one. I thought having Mason would fix things in my life, but it only made everything worse. He is better off without me. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to tell her how selfish and cruel she was. But then she said something that knocked the wind out of me. I am pregnant again. Kevin and I are having a baby. I could not speak. My sister, who had abandoned her first child, who claimed she never wanted to be a mother, was about to have another baby. Are you serious right now? I finally managed. It is different this time, she said. Kevin and I are in love. This baby was planned. This is a fresh start for me. I hung up the phone without saying goodbye. I was too disgusted to continue the conversation. Over the following weeks, I consulted with a lawyer about getting legal custody of Mason. The process was complicated. Rachel would need to sign documents terminating her parental rights, or I would have to prove abandonment in court. Either way, it would take time and money. I reached out to Rachel about signing the paperwork. She refused. I do not want any legal complications, she said. Just keep taking care of him. That should be enough. It was not enough. Without legal guardianship, I could not enroll Mason in school properly. I could not make medical decisions for him. I could not even add him to my health insurance. I was stuck in a bureaucratic nightmare, while Rachel lived her new life in Arizona, pretending her first child did not exist. Then, exactly 6 months after Rachel left Mason on my doorstep, I received a phone call that changed everything once more. It was from Child Protective Services in Phoenix. The social worker on the phone introduced herself and asked if I was Daniel, the brother of Rachel. When I confirmed, she told me that Rachel had given birth to a baby girl 2 days earlier, but the baby had tested positive for methamphetamine at birth. CPS had immediately taken custody of the newborn. Rachel had been arrested on drug charges. So had Kevin. We found your contact information in Rachel's phone as her emergency contact, the social worker explained. We are reaching out to family members to see if anyone would be willing to provide care for the infant while we determine next steps. I sat down heavily in my chair. My hands were shaking. What happens if no family member steps forward? I asked. The baby will enter the foster care system. I thought about this tiny infant born into addiction through no fault of her own, facing a future in the system. I thought about Mason, who was finally starting to stabilize, finally starting to smile again. I thought about Rachel, who had spiraled so far down that she could not even keep herself safe, let alone a child. That night, I did not sleep. I watched Mason sleeping peacefully in his little bed, his chest rising and falling with each breath. Over the past 6 months, he had started calling me Daddy instead of Uncle Daniel. At first, it caught me off guard. Then it filled me with a warmth I had never experienced before. This little boy was my son now. Not by blood, not by law yet, but in every way that mattered. And somewhere in Phoenix, there was a baby girl who was his sister. She was also innocent. She also deserved a chance. By morning, I had made my decision. I called CPS and told them I would take the baby. I also informed them that I wanted to begin the process of obtaining full legal custody of Mason given his mother's arrest and history of abandonment. The social worker sounded relieved. Thank you, Daniel. You have no idea how rare this kind of family support is. For the first time in 6 months, I felt something other than fear and exhaustion. I felt purpose. I felt determination. I was no longer just reacting to what Rachel had done to me. I was actively choosing my path. I was choosing these children, and I was going to fight for them with everything I had. The following months were the most challenging and rewarding of my entire life. The legal process moved slowly, but it moved. Rachel's arrest and the documented abandonment of Mason made my case for custody stronger. She did not contest it. From what I heard through the social workers, she was in a court-ordered rehabilitation facility facing multiple charges. Mason's little sister was named Lily. I brought her home from the hospital when she was 3 weeks old after she had gone through withdrawal treatment. She was tiny, fragile, and absolutely perfect. Mason was fascinated by her from the moment he saw her. "That is my sister," he told anyone who would listen. "I am going to teach her everything." I had to move out of my 1-bedroom apartment. I found a small 2-bedroom house to rent in a decent neighborhood with good schools. My company, after learning about my situation, allowed me to work remotely 3 days a week. It was not perfect, but it was enough. I joined a support group for single parents. It was there that I met other people who understood the exhaustion, the fear, and the unexpected joys of raising children alone. I made friends who became like family. One of those friends was Amanda, a single mother of 2 who lived a few streets away. She helped me figure out everything from diaper brands to pediatrician recommendations. Her kids played with Mason while she and I talked over coffee about the chaos of our lives. She became my closest friend, someone who saw me at my worst and never judged. Slowly, day by day, our little family found its rhythm. Mason thrived in preschool. His teachers said he was kind, creative, and always willing to help other kids. The tantrums faded away. The nightmares became less frequent. He stopped asking when Mommy was coming back. Instead, he started making Father's Day cards for me, decorated with crayon drawings of our family, him, me, and baby Lily. Lily grew stronger every week. Her doctor said she was developing normally with no lasting effects from the drugs in her system at birth. She had Rachel's eyes, but a spirit entirely her own. When she learned to smile, she smiled at everyone. When she learned to laugh, the sound filled our home with a lightness I did not know I was missing. About a year after Rachel left Mason with me, I received a request from her rehabilitation facility. She wanted to speak with Mason via video call supervised by her counselors and me. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to protect Mason from any more pain, but another part of me knew that he deserved to see his mother, even if only to understand that she was alive and getting help. I agreed to the call. Rachel looked different on the screen. Thinner, older, with dark circles under her eyes, but also clearer somehow, like the fog had lifted slightly. Mason sat on my lap as the video connected. When he saw Rachel, his body tensed. "Hi, baby," Rachel said, her voice cracking. "Mommy missed you so much." Mason was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Hi, Mommy." They talked for about 15 minutes. Rachel apologized to him. She told him she was sick but getting better. She told him she loved him. Mason listened, nodded, and answered her questions politely. At one point, Rachel asked him how he was doing. "I am good," Mason said. "Daddy takes care of me and Lily. We have a house now, and I go to school." The word "daddy" hung in the air. I saw Rachel flinch just slightly. Pain flickered across her face, but she did not argue or correct him. "I am glad you are happy," she said quietly. "Your daddy is a good man." After the call ended, Mason hugged me tight. "Mommy looks sad," he said. "She is working on getting better," I told him. "And no matter what, you are safe here with me, always." He nodded and went back to playing with his toys, seemingly at peace. I thought about Rachel for a long time after that call. I used to hate her for what she did. I used to lie awake at night fantasizing about telling her exactly how much damage she caused. But watching her on that screen, broken and trying to rebuild herself, I realized that hatred was a weight I no longer wanted to carry. Rachel was not a monster. She was a deeply troubled person who had been failed by many people, including our parents. She made terrible choices that hurt innocent people. But she was also someone's daughter, someone's sister. And in her own damaged way, she had trusted me to do what she could not. I did not forgive her in the sense of erasing what happened. But I let go of the anger. I released it so I could focus on what mattered: the 2 children who called me daddy and deserved a future full of love. Today, Mason is 5 years old. Lily is almost 1. Our small house is filled with toys and books, and the kind of beautiful mess that comes with raising children. I am tired all the time. My bank account is always lower than I would like. My social life consists mostly of playdates and parent meetings, but I have never been happier. I did not choose this life. It was thrust upon me by a single text message from Las Vegas on an ordinary Saturday night. But somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing it as a burden and started seeing it as a gift. Sometimes I look at Mason and Lily sleeping and I think about how close they came to a completely different life. Foster care, instability, the system that swallows up so many innocent children. Instead, they have a home. They have each other. They have me. Life does not always give us what we want. Sometimes it gives us what we need, even when we cannot see it at first. If you are facing an impossible situation right now, something that feels like it will break you, I want you to know that you are stronger than you think. The path forward might not be clear. The burden might feel unbearable. But you have the capacity to rise to challenges you never imagined. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment that completely changed your life in an instant? Have you ever stepped up for someone even when it was hard? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and I believe your experiences matter. If this story touched you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss more stories like this one. and share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Your support means the world to me and helps these stories reach more people. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being part of this community. Wherever you are tonight, I hope you find the strength to face whatever challenge is in front of you. And I hope you know that sometimes the greatest blessings come in the most unexpected packages. Take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. Until next time.